Today I'm going to talk about mystery living with mystery as a spiritual science. And I'm going to start by saying whatever you do with all your life force, with all you got, is what it's like however you make your bed is what the bed you'll lie in. Whatever preparation you put into your dinner is what you're going to eat. So it's for all your life. With all my life means for all my life. So if I do it fully right now, in this time and place, with all of me, I'll be able to access this moving forward as something that's part of for all my life. So it'll be something that no longer do I devote 100% to, but becomes something that lasts with me. So the first element of this is no longer maybe colonizing. And I'm not only talking about colonial America or India, but I'm saying in all the relationships where I have guns and you have a bow and arrow, or the areas where you have guns and I have bows and arrows, we have to look at where we're fighting. Kind of like, you're bringing up a cannon, as a teacher of mine recently said, and I have a knife, and in a way, I'm going to run through some angles to look at, and you see what practice speaks to you, where you can bring more mystery in. Before I do that, I'm going to go through mystery and all the aspects of living in a mystery. So a mystery is the army. I mentioned already wars, colonizing. So I'm going to speak about army here. I'm going to say army is a word that started with arm me. Make my arms longer than they are so I could reach you, like from the heart with my hate. I could send this energy with a weapon, a stick with something at the end of it that swings, or a knife, sharpened stick, or however the weapon is. It's arm me. It's an army. It's extending more than one person needs. Army. So we're thinking of it like that, like an army. So how are you arming your arms as extensions of your heart? And it's like alarms is all arms, all arms, all arms, alarms, Think of your morning alarm. You wake up with all arms. And so we've really got to let this mystery be, when are we alarmed and when do we bring out the army, the inner army? And then we look at, when we figure it out, it's a figure. We give it a shape, literally. These are examples of just seeing a little bit deeper into these concepts and living with them. And of course, there could be a whole video on each of these words, but there's so much that this applies to in real life that it's not worth it right now for me to go on and on about the details. I'm sharing it, and you pick and choose. You can watch this again if you want. So to figure it out means there's a figure, and you're giving it shape. You're literally imagining it. Your image in it. You are image in it. So you're giving it a shape. You're figuring it out means you're letting it take form. So this is the mystery of things as they take form, and the mystery of love and from the heart, and the army from the heart. And then, we don't have a place called Victor or Victoria, but we have Victorians, the ones who are the victors. So we've got to look at this also. The ones who are the victors write the history. So a lot of the teachings have not been written, and you might have some group that's kind of not keeping track of progress or staying available to the passage, being like the constant growth. You may have some who say this is the right way, but actually, let's say Southeast Asia has preserved, or all over Asia has preserved some traditions, word of mouth, directly handed down, and not necessarily in books and things. So it's a very victorious lineage, a victorious religion, but you wouldn't say that they're victorious over somebody else. So taking out this notion of what does it mean to have a victory is to still be here, to be constantly progressing, constantly growing. That is victory. And some other things to look at from a new angle before I run through a bunch of pragmatism, reasoning, mindfulness, like all those kinds of things, and where we could bring the mystery in. Before I run through all that, I'm going to talk about looking at some things with another angle. So we could see a lot of things are more mysterious in regular life. So first of all, reliability, dependability, trustworthy, loyal, predictable. This means that we are assuming things will go a certain way, or that it will be available to us exactly the way that we want. And this is where we can bring more mystery in. Additionally, bonding with a chosen master, not a slave who's waiting to fight back and usurp. It means, who do you give some rights over your mental influence? I find sometimes I give the elderly or the older people rights over my mind, and actually they can influence me the wrong way. They're just more experienced with their way. This may seem very immature, but I also need to learn from a 2.5-year-old, from children, because they show me how the rules one day, the rules the next day, nuance, gray area, the range. And I learned so much from that about how they become the model for what is reliable, what's dependable, that can meet you in every situation, what is really trustworthy. I mean, is there any person you could fully 100% trust? And who is a master? Is it a group of people? Is it a community? Is it one? Bringing in the mystery of otherwise you're kind of like waiting for them to give you the approval and you never get it. And the minute that you could put them down, you might, and you won't even be aware of it. And then, of course, being on display. There's this sense of cognitive dissonance versus privacy. And this comes from not overcompensating or comparing or competing. Versus being able to just practice means you could be on display. You could mess up. There's not anybody who's got this set of eyes that you're putting as more godly than your own eyes, that this one could judge you and say you're a failure and discard you. It's releasing that shame, not blaming ourselves for what others did to us, for perverse power, twisted pleasure, how they've humiliated us, whether it was our parents, our friends, from moments of mocking us, how sensitive we are. The skill of not feeling threatened by others is a strength, in arrangements or in abilities. So being able to arrange things and then just being able in general. It's like practicing that skill is where we stop overcompensating. We stop comparing, we stop competing. It's like, this is an ability I have, and it's not something that could be quantifiable. And then the teachings is the teachers, and that is the life, the constant growth. Teaching is to be a student, is to be aware that there's a progress, and it is letting go of the perfectionism. It's so brave to look at the preciousness that God doesn't waste any time. All the patterns that we see are parsimonious, which means everything is important, necessary, and significant. It's exactly the way it's supposed to be. And when you're feeling too much multitasking or stretching, feeling loaded, the moments are very potent actually for the yielding, for the surfing, for the adapting, for the cruising. That's where we get to know ourselves and where we can get to know others in those moments. Not when it's the first impression so fancy, so spend hours making it perfect and preparing. That's not really it. That's not really how we release shame or release blame, for those who maybe came into our house and said horrible things about and we let them into our private space. And, then there's this sense of, look at me in the eye. When we look at each other, we really look at each other. It's like, look at me, I'm getting to know you. Get to know me. Look at me, I'm willing to see you. I'm not afraid. We start to recognize there's the mystery of making eye contact, of actually being curious about the other, of watching them when they're trying a new skill. These become more valuable than the impressive moments where we're trying to be the star or where, we seem so polished. It becomes much more precious when we realize everything is godly, the daily routine, the pleasure in the mundane moments. And then, of course, there's this practice of ahimsa, which is non-injury, even to the self as a fundamental for all this work, is saying, keep staying present, because it's only when we stop paying attention and our mind wanders that, unpleasantness can start to occur. We start to think, what if that would be better? And this, instead of being here right now. So ahimsa, non-injury, is why it's so important to stay here now, instead of getting into all the ways it would be better, or what a loser I am, or how anxious I feel because I didn't know how to return the greeting the way the other wanted to. And kind of recognizing all the greetings, respecting the greetings, returning the greetings, just giving our eye contact, our attention, acknowledgement. Spending 3 sentences arguing because we don't feel the person spoke to us the right way and we desire more respect, and saying how could you approach me this way? How could you talk to me this way? And I see it all the time in myself and others. But actually it's disrespecting the fact that you were greeted. Recognizing the greeting rather than being ignored and alone. And affirming is saying, in these periods where it feels not fancy, where it feels not, the mystery is that it doesn't feel so glamorous. That's when we affirm and we say, I take inspired action. I know when to rest and when to act. And we affirm this because that's the potent moment for when surfing can happen, where we're doing the work, but it starts to blend with us. We start, like I said, I do it with all of myself, even when I feel it takes all of me just to do this small thing of clean my floors or cook some food, so that I can have this for the rest of my life. It will always be easier to clean the floors and make the food because I did it when it was hard. And that's why we say it's inspired action. The spirit comes into the action! And it might take all that energy just to, like, you know, light a candle. But that's the work. The work is there. The work is releasing the shame and not having to do everything perfectly, but doing it. And balancing being automatically sacred, so I don't have to invest and guard and protect and do all this work. And I could just be. And on the other side of it, being so sacred that I need constant vigilance, constant investment, constant guarding. And I don't want to get filthy inside and out, in the sense of when we lower our guard too much, there is no sense of what is precious. And we start to only want to do the things that feel good in the moment. So we're depersonifying time. Sometimes I look at time as like, it's a demanding resource. It's like this monster, and I have to keep it under control. Or money, any resource. You could apply this to anything. And it wants me to use it and turn it wisely and always turn it into something, you know, and you know, make it muscles, make it money, make objects come together, like, you know, solving a puzzle or building something or cooking, converting it into power, networking, and starting to respect myself, starting to respect time, is that it doesn't always have to be something so revealed. The mystery of it is really where it's wholesome and skillful. Wisdom can come in when we don't know exactly what time wants from us. That's when we start to adapt into the moment and learn the wisdom and the skill and the magic of really being wholesome, being whole in this moment, even if I haven't turned time into something physical. Everything has a beginning and an end. And, you know, the skills, possessions, success, networks, these are all processes kind of that start and finish. And, you know, you start building a network, and then at some point you think I'm finished building my network, but then the network serves you. So always turning time into something has its benefits, right? Balancing that I'm always keeping time precious. I'm never wasting time as a resource, but also, and like myself, sacred, you know, and I've heard people say how you treat God, how you treat life is a reflection of how you treat your values, how you treat yourself. So anyway, like not always needing, like bringing some mystery and not always needing time to become, you know, something physically revealed, and kind of honoring the sacredness of it not. And then bridging that gap into the sense that time is actually, as a resource, is actually both. There's timelessness. There's no time. As I said, you're turning it into networks, power, money, muscles, and relationships, possessions, success, but also, and you know, and building self-respect out of how, you know, degrees, experience on the resume. But there's also infinite time. You could really turn it into everything you ever wanted to. Others are, you know, facing big bad time too. You're not on your own. It's reassuring that each one of us is trying to make something with the time we have here, with the life we have here. And we have to choose our values and priorities to match. And there's a mystery there. With all my life, for all my life. And now I'm going to go into mysteries as a spiritual science. These are all experiments you can do that will open you up to the mystery. One is keeping track of your progress and staying available to the passage as being a constant growth. And I talked about this with teachers, and I talked about this as the first one to start with. And I've mentioned a lot about time. So I would say taking the time. Taking the time is receiving the time. Receiving the time to take the time. So in this way, keeping track of progress is you take time to make time for what really matters. And to see the growth is you take time to make time for reflection. So you once you're reflecting, you can see actually what you're doing and where you're growing, and you're not always rushing to do the stuff that you're supposed to do. You actually value the time itself more. And is there time really for not having peace? Which takes away our blessings? Is there really time for that? So, you know, is there really time for listening to this video, which asks you to bring in more mystery, and practicing with all of the life to do it for all your life? Is there time for this? So now I'll say many things, and whatever sounds good to you, you can try these experiments. First of all is body work. Body work means you work with the body, the organs, and the systems and the limbs where energy gets stored. And you find mysteries. You find mysteries in your body, places you don't know very well, and you don't run to the places where you can make big muscles quick. Yeah. You actually will start to recognize there's so much stored up energy available in the areas you didn't think to go to. Sacred geometry. This is shapes, this is patterns, this is, ways in which you look at the numbers and the way that they align into angles with a sense of respect. And there's mystery there. Sufi and dervishing. So this is like to spin, to do these repetitive whirling and twirling. And now I'm going to stop talking so much about each one, but each one of these, there's so much mystery, and it will trigger things in you, and you can write them down, or you can practice one each day. Tonglen, which is the practice of breathing in the badness, impregnating the breath, and breathing out the goodness. And the inverse of that is yogic breathing, which is when you bring in the goodness and you breathe out the badness. And either way. And then hoping for what's to come, elevating the yearning. So there's a mystery of what do I really want? And doing the inquiry practice, taking the time to do this. Shaking. This is tremors. This is trembling. This is like doing that releases energy, and you could find that animals do this naturally to release trauma. Children do this, and we do this when we're cold. It releases a fear. Sound bath, which is gongs and crystal bowls and those shakers, and even drums could be part of it. Colors, connecting with colors without names, just the colors you see. Making colors when you paint. I love adding white slowly but surely to each new color, and some gray or black, and then kind of seeing all the shades that are possible. Chanting or kirtan. Enchantment, you become enchanted. So you say, kirtan is where, or in Hebrew we say, davening, praying. So you repeat these psukim, these verses over and over and over, and until they sort of become the ground, the anchor. And there's so much mystery that comes out of that doorway. Yoga flow, animal flow, finding beast in your body and elevating it to becoming, your strength. The fear itself becomes the air that you breathe. Breath work, like I said, breathing. Art, ritual practices. You can draw on any tradition and find things, whether it's arranging things a certain way, saying things a certain way, washing your hands a certain way, making clothes a certain way. Anyway, dance and martial arts. Mindfulness of death, which in some tradition could be called bardo, and other tradition could be called maranasati. And this is to be aware of the fact that you're going to die, and it's fleeting, and now, and now, and now, and now. And I could die in this video, and I could die, before I make the next video tomorrow, and who knows, when I will die. Silence. The mystery of silence for me is a very difficult one, and one that I want to practice more. It'll bring me more life and more time if I'm able to bring that in more. Then there's something called forest bathing, or the proper term for the Japanese practice, I believe it's Japanese, is called Shinrin Yoku, which is where you are able to completely become sensorially and emotionally enveloped by the forest. And the fact that everything is different sizes and different smells, and the animals will slowly start to trust you if you come there. And if you go to the same place every day, it's even more powerful. You bathe in the sensual experience of being in the forest. Strength training. Animals or plants work, whether it's cleaning in a garden, working in a garden, or taking care of shelter animals, or at a farm. Kabbalistic work or light work. Kabbalah means to receive, so you become a receiver, you become a networker, part of the Wi-Fi network of energy, or you would say a nuclear reactor. You cause reaction to happen by receiving. Tao or Tao, which is being the flow. Incense or aromatherapy. Self-hypnosis, or going to a master hypnotist. You chose this person to lead you. It's not a power struggle. You chose this person to guide you. And you're not going to call them just to kind of prove to them that they're wrong about you, to use them. You actually, a little bitterness there. Somebody did that to me this week. You're actually willing to be hypnotized. Body buttering, oiling, detoxing, anointing, some level of flow on the outside of the body. Water immersion, it's a different kind, not the oils or the butters, but in the water. Compassionate emotional intelligence. However you want to practice this. There's the holistic psychologist on Instagram. She talks about journaling prompts and other practices, breathing prompts. In getting smarter in your compassion and your emotions, becoming able to be more kind. Intuitive functioning. This can be anything from, using tarot cards or oracle cards to just randomly opening a book and seeing what comes up, or, thinking of something a lot and then seeing where it becomes revealed in your life. Seeking truth and studiousness. This could be called researcher, observer. This is when you actively let the mystery in. If you observe, you do science experiments with your life, you do inquiries, you journal, you read about stuff. Then you have mentality, belief system toolbox. You are tuning the wires, you're rewiring, and this is both your nervous system, that's the central one, and also the peripheral one. So this could be anything from, doing sweeping motions on the body, which calms the nervous system. It could be eye movements or eye yoga. They call it EMDR also. It could be coloring without looking at what you're making, just very quickly moving. It could be a Tai Chi that moves the flow, but something that grounds the nervous system as you're telling yourself, I'm safe, I'm comfortable, I'm powerful. Or if you want to say, I'm strong, I got this, got this. Like you start to put these, using the nervous system, which the muscles are part of it, the hormones, even with sleep, before you go to sleep, you could say things, everything. I would recommend you just do your own experiment. You bring mystery in. Creativity and improvisation. You could do comedy stuff, or you could do art, or you could come up with new foods. Whatever you have in your fridge, use random, or you pick or you do like random stuff. You write a few things and you make connections with a few different things that don't usually go together by putting them into a hat and picking out 3 and then connecting them, or playing a game with somebody where you find the letters out of the word. There's a bunch of letters and then you make the words out of the letters. So you make a bunch of words, like boggle, I think it is. Or you play games, you have to improvise. And then, of course, there's pragmatism. So you practice seeing both sides of the argument. You see the weakest of your argument, and on the other side, the most strongest of the others. And then you learn how to be able to see from multiple points of view. And you could do this about topics that you feel strongly about, or about topics that are just easier because they're not as emotionally triggering. And then, of course, the reasoning ability, and this is the ability to follow things through. If A, then B, then C. So you practice the mystery of, okay, and you could look at this as cognitive behavioral therapy. You challenge a thought. Or acceptance, ACT, you totally receive the thoughts. You say, okay, I didn't know how to greet that person, and so they don't want to be my friend. You say, if that's so, then maybe not just them. Maybe many people don't want to be my friend. Maybe I am not good at social cues of this kind of nature. Maybe this is a new culture for me where I'm meeting a lot of new people. I don't know how to engage with the way I want. Maybe I'm okay with learning new skills. And you follow it through till you say, wow, I could just ask somebody. But if you just immediately went by without reasoning, without the sense, ability to follow from A to B to C, you may not have strengthen the mystery of what could happen if you would really ask this person or somebody else, what's the cultural norm for this situation when it's on the heart, and then this, and then what is expected. And then you have collaborative company. This is when you have a group of people, or even just 2, get together for the same purpose. So much mystery comes out. You're not doing it alone. You collaborate. You find ways for each one, whether you're making a meal together, building something from IKEA, or a puzzle, or dog sitting together. It doesn't matter. Problem solving will occur naturally. Communication struggles are available if you want them. The drama could come up. It's all there, the mystery. Trusting, serving Mother Nature, Mother Earth. So finding ways to take care of the environment, and trusting, leaning on a heavy, heavy duty tree and just, thank you. Nobody got me like you, Adapting to the present without losing the higher vision or the connection to possibility. So these are when you have the moment feels very potent, like I said, loaded. And this is when you have to rise to the occasion, and you actually have to do the thing you have to do. So instead of having an attachment okay, I gotta meditate before I do this, or I have to smoke a joint before I do this, or I have to check in with this person before I do this. It's adapting to the moment and saying, let me see what it looks like. Let me see what it will be like. Let me look at the mystery of adapting to this moment without losing the fact that this may all be just a practice. Who knows what it will be like. Then we have storing and recording and scribing. This is journaling. This is keeping track of your progress. This is making lists. This is seeing what comes up when you categorize things in a specific way so that you could have everything related to it come up. And also it's like making note of exactly what happened so you have something to rely on from your own words, even if things change in your perspective over time. Humbly being a lifelong student. I've mentioned this in a few different ways as part of my introduction for this, but the mystery is saying I'm a student. And being willing to learn about drumming, if you don't know about it, being willing to learn how computers work in a specific area, being willing to learn how somebody else, commits to like each week when they do an activity for themselves, what is it? Like, so it's kind of like not being as self-centered is not everything you're already good at, but what are some things you don't know about? And being humble about it, saying I'm learning how to, do these things for my business, or I'm learning how to advertise such and such because I want to volunteer there and I want to make a group for it, or, and then motivational speech. It is taking the time to, whatever you feel you have something to offer, whether you do an Instagram live or you make a YouTube video, but actually, it could even be in sales. It could be on the phone with your clients every day. Something that you do where you motivate. You use your speech to motivate. You have no idea what's going to come out, and you have no idea what the other person will hear from it, but using speech to motivate. Facing phobias and trying new things. So this is, I have a problem with singing and dancing publicly sometimes, but when I practice making tones, I access sometimes my voice, and the mystery comes out of wow. Or sometimes I just practice moving a little bit left, right, front, back, up, down, left, right, front, back, up, down. And then I start to find the flow with the music. So just kind of like trying new things helps me to get through the phobia. And mystery comes out of how I can move my body and how I can access my voice. Then there's liberating, rebirthing, and redeeming. This is when we start fresh. People who enter 12-step programs have day 1, then they have day 90. These are like, they've been rebirthed on that day. When you start a new job, let it be a mystery. What's going to happen with me? I don't have to be the same person I was before. When you get a new relationship, be liberated. Now you're able to be the one that you couldn't be in the previous relationships. Finally, releasing attachment to outcome is the key for all of this. In the mystery of life, you've got to release that it's going to come a certain way. We've all been hurt so many times that we project and decide how it should be. So my blessing to you, and as I close, is to say that the practice of mystery is, as a spiritual science, is to release the attachment to the outcome. You're going in there. It's like a Goosebumps novel that I used to read as a kid. You choose your own ending. It would be scary things, but like fun enough, not too scary. And say, turn to page 54 if you want to enter the room, turn to page 81 if you don't want to enter the room. And you go the other way. And you would turn to the page that you chose, and then you don't know what's coming. So you get choices in life, and we turn to that page, and we don't know how it's going to turn out. So part of doing the mystery as a spiritual science is you've got to become brave enough to be a scientist who doesn't know how the experiment is going to go. And you may fail, and that's why I've talked so much about how you're a student. You will learn your lessons from exactly where you think you took things the wrong way, and that's what a mistake is, mistaking. So lots of love to you, and thank you for joining me on this mystical and mysterious journey.